Coming up on This Week in Space, Rod and I bring you all the space headlines all the time as we talk about how the government shutdown is affecting NASA, yet Artemis 3 plans continue, the Interstellar Comet is getting its close-up at Mars, and Viper runs anew, and that's just a few of the headlines you're going to get on This Week in Space.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is This Week in Space, episode number 180, recorded on October 3rd, 2025. NASA is closed for business. Hello and welcome to another episode of the one, the only, the inimitable This Week in Space, the NASA is closed for business edition. I'm Rod Pyle, editor-in-chief at Astro Magazine, and I'm here with my bestest buddy, the Taekwondo sparring, nearly black belt achieving Tarek Malik, editor-in-chief for Space.com.
Hello, Rod. How are you? Hello, space people. Hello, everybody.
I'm okay. I'm glad to be back from Huntsville. It was a nice trip, but always nice to come home. So this week...
Did you bring me a rocket back from Huntsville? No?
No comment. This week, you're stuck with the two of us because there was just so many stories to cover. We thought, okay, we got to take a week to just catch up because there's a lot going on. You can only do so much when you have a guest, you know? So this is our chance to kind of backfill the things that we haven't really been getting around to. And before we start, of course, please don't forget to do us a solid and make sure to like, subscribe, push all them buttons for all the stars and all the boots and all the rainbows that you can give us because we need it. And as evidence of how much we need your help, here's a space joke.
Oh, I'm ready. Who, from anybody or for you? Is it you?
I'm not saying.
Okay.
And this is probably a little boomer-oriented, so I apologize in advance, but we'll say, hey, Tarek.
Yes, Rod.
What did Captain Picard say to Data when he wanted to indulge his model railroading hobby?
I don't know. What did he say?
Set a course for the nearest hobby store. N-gauge.
I was about to say that. I had an N-gauge model railroad when I was a kid. It's a small.
John's furrowing his brow like, what the heck is an N-gauge?
Right? And then
John,
the H-gauge and the HO.
Yeah, there's O-gauge, HO gauge, and N-gauge in diminishing proportions.
Yeah.
So N-gauge model trains.
Oh, yeah, they're real small. It's like
they're like the size of your forefinger. Yeah.
Oh,
they're almost
okay. I didn't know they're actually called N-gauge.
The gauge is the size of the track.
I mean, I've seen these before, obviously. I didn't know they're called. Oh, cool. Okay.
Well, I didn't know if you would have because I think this has really sort of fallen out of favor. But
100%, yeah.
What we need now are model rockets at that gauge that work without all the falderall that go with launching them with solid fuel. They just need to go.
What is falderall? That's a word I've never heard before. Is that like rigmarole?
Yeah, just all the drama engaged with
how do you
lighting a rocket on fire.
Falderall. Yeah. Are you thinking that John he made up a word right there?
No,
Yes.
Folder, OL.
FOL.
Okay, tick-tock, gentlemen. Now, I've heard that some people want to shrink us down to N-gauge when it's joke time of the show, which would be a challenge for either Tarek or myself. But you can help by sending us your best, worst, or most indifferent space joke at twit.tv. And we will appreciate you forever, even more than we do now. And now, onward to headline news.
Headline news.
Headline news.
Wow, you almost nailed it.
I did nail it. What are you talking about?
Well, our fans tell us there's a delay in the transmission, so apparently
what are you going to do?
Causes you to unnail it.
Oh, look, Jammer B, actually, he found the definition of folderol. Trivial or
nonsensical fuss.
Yeah.
See,
So that's Rod on a general basis. Okay.
That's Jeopardy! So the story staring us down like a giant dragon that's about to flame you into cinders, of course, is the government shutdown, which means NASA's closed for business.
That's right.
85% of their workforce has been furloughed.
15,000 people.
1,000 people sent home. 3,100 exempted. Now, I don't know if that means that they're working without pay they'll get later if they're still being paid. It was not
they're all working without pay, I think. So if you're allowed to work, you don't get paid.
I tried
the
to
TSA
do
people?
something for JPL once, off hours on the weekend, and got my wrist slapped pretty hard because apparently you can't donate time to NASA, but I guess this is an exception. And apparently a fairly large percentage of the accepted workers are for Artemis, which, is not entirely a bad thing. But I wonder if any part of the various missions, especially robotic ones, are put at any risk. Now, as you told me earlier in the week, JPL is apparently not furloughed yet because they
That's
work
what I
for
heard.
Caltech.
Yeah.
So that gives me a little confidence there, but it's just it's not a good thing, And let me just note, China doesn't take days off, especially in
These
things
aren't
like
days
high
off.
tech and the space trade. Well, but I mean,
Pretty sure they would love to be still at work.
Yeah, probably.
Being on furlough and being like on vacation on a day off are two very different things. You're getting paid for a day off for the most part, right? If it's a NASA job or anything, but if it's a enforced furlough because two sides of the government can't agree on like a fundamental basic, it's like their job. They have one job, which is to keep the government open. That's like the one basic thing that we have a government for is to, work for the people that elected them there in the first place. But what are you gonna do? We don't gotta get political. But what I'd heard about JPL, and this is through the grapevine, is that because they work for Caltech,
They're managed by Caltech.
They're managed by Caltech, and that's on a contract for NASA. Like they can work. All the stuff that they do, needs decisions from NASA, and that whole side of the agency.
Headquarters. Yeah.
And if you don't get that, then you really can't do anything, Like I know that on the PR side, all the releases have to get approved by headquarters. And if there's no one there to approve it, nothing is happening, So there was an interesting side note to this, and that was initially on the NASA website. It said, the site's not being updated because of the federal government shutdown. Mm-hmm. We apologize for the inconvenience. And then the little apology disappeared and it just stopped. And it just said, we're not being updated. And I thought that was kind of interesting, that they would at least acknowledge that it was an imposition for the American people. And then they removed it. But, I don't know how that happens at NASA. So,
well, apologies are not a hallmark of our current era. Yeah. So perhaps they thought, well, that's a little too much. It's, if you're working for NASA, which I kind of wish I still was, you've had a hard year.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say you've had a very challenging year. And this is just,
and it's not over yet.
The couple on top of the wedding cake looking very chagrined.
A couple things about this shutdown, just to let our listeners and viewers know, is as Rod mentioned, 85% of the workforce is on mandatory furlough, which means that they can't. It's not only that they can't work; it's they can't actually even open email or anything related to their job at all. And so of those 3,100 who are exempted, so of the 18,000 full workforce, there's 3,000 folks that are still working. We did get assurances last week at the Artemis 2 stand-ups that NASA had that the Artemis program and the workers on that flow for Artemis 2 are accepted. It's deemed one of those essential services, as is core mission control positions for the International Space Station. Remember, there's a full crew of astronauts on the International Space Station right now. Government shutdown or no, so those astronauts, their jobs are essential, so they get to continue their job. The same thing for mission control as well, to keep the space station in good shape. And any other types of support, cargo launches, that kind of thing, will be supported as part of that. Also, most military launches and services for like launches for the U.S. economy are deemed essential. So there might be some delays, but NASA and Blue Origin are planning to launch the Escapade mission to Mars later this month. As we're recording this, that should still continue. We were told about a mid-month campaign for that on a New Glenn rocket. So you can expect to see that. Will it be webcast with commentary? Probably not. Those are the types of things that you will not see.
sitting at home.
But I checked, and you can actually still get live video from the International Space Station via YouTube. It's just there's no commentary or anything like that that the PAO would normally do.
So one wonders, I mean, I play devil's advocate here because I'm glad Artemis isn't getting shut down for reasons we discuss probably every week on this show. But what makes that essential and so many other things non-essential other than political desires?
I think that's the coach. Now, in the case of the International Space Station, you get it. There are human lives at stake.
I get that. It was Artemis specifically.
Artemis too. I mean, I think there's one thing that you and I can agree on, as well as all of our listeners, is that the agency, as well as U.S. leadership, have made it pretty clear where they stand on a U.S. return to the moon and China in particular, and the importance of getting there first in the 21st century. And so they've made it kind of like the priority for NASA as an essential service. And it's that type of an approach. I think that a lot of lawmakers have called it a national security matter, and we heard that echoed in the leadership discussions that we saw last week during the Artemis 2 stand-up from Sean Duffy at the astronaut announcement too. I'll be damned is what he says, right? So apparently even during a shutdown.
Well, we don't have the story on here, and we got to go to a break. But I did notice that somebody, I can't remember who it was, had introduced the notion of some kind of movement within government circles to move away from SpaceX's lunar lander and probably towards Blue Origins. But let's circle back to that. We'll be right back because we love you after this break. Stand by.
Hey, everybody. Leo Laporte here, and I'm going to bug you one more time to join Club Twit. If you're not already a member, I want to encourage you to support what we do here at Twit. 25% of our operating costs comes from membership in the club. That's a huge portion, and it's growing all the time. That means we can do more. We can have more fun. You get a lot of benefits, ad-free versions of all the shows. You get access to the Club Twit Discord and special programming like the keynotes from Apple and Google and Microsoft and others that we don't stream otherwise in public. Please join the club. If you haven't done it yet, we'd love to have you. Find out more at twit.tv/clubtwit. And thank you so much.
Next up, we have a story I like to call, sadly, chopping the shuttle. So according to our friend Keith Cowing over at NASA Watch, Texas Senators Cruz and Cornyn have instructed that the Space Shuttle Discovery should be cut up for the move to Texas, which is a move the Smithsonian sharply disagrees with. This order has come from the Office of Management and Budget, so I guess it advanced one more step, telling the Smithsonian to study how the disassembly, which is a polite word for blowtorches and chisels, might be accomplished. Now, if you've ever seen a shuttle, it's a very big, massive, and yet strangely delicate machine made of soft aluminum and ceramic tiles that will chip and crack if you so much as give them an angry glance. So Smithsonian maintains this would severely compromise Discovery, which is the shuttle we're talking about. And probably more to the point, the Smithsonian maintains that this was purposely kept as pristine as possible as an engineering base for people to study in the future when they're looking at large space planes. Now, will we ever build something else like the shuttle? Who knows? It wasn't the most efficient way to approach doing a space plane, but for the time, it was a huge leap forward. If you're going to do it again in the future, I'm sure it would be different. But in any case, there is something to be said for maintaining the past, i.e. we've gone back to study parts of the Saturn V as we move forward in our large booster programs. So cutting it up into pieces doesn't seem like basically to satisfy the egos of a couple of senators and let them have a political victory for their tourist trade. Let me just finish real quick. Estimated costs for the move at this point, which are also part of the Smithsonian's job to ascertain, are estimated to be between 120 and 150 million, which does not include anything about where it's going. This just gets it to Texas, doesn't cover the cost of a tarp or a tent or a building or anything else. So the 85 million that was set aside in the big beautiful bill for this is not going to do it.
Do you think this is true though? Like, really? No one can. I don't know. This is weird. I was talking about
the
this.
shuttle.
Well, no, just like it's the save the shuttle, the keep the shuttle team, right? That's because I saw this was on NASA Watch, right, at Keith Cowing.
Yeah.
And that they have like the whole statement from the keep the shuttle group that's trying to preserve it. And they're saying that they got asked by the OMB, but and it's like the government's closed, right? So
Right.
when do they ask and everything? Because this is crazy to like cut it up. I agree. Like that is, and the space shuttle is 120 feet long. Is that
Something
right?
like that.
About right? Or is it
Something like that.
220? And then
It's big.
it's got a 60-foot cargo bay, and then it's another 60
Big
feet.
and delicate. It's got a contiguous heat shield
120
across the bottom. Now, those tiles are somewhat modular. They're all individually shaped. But if you go cutting across the belly of that thing, which is its widest point, you'd have to fabricate replacement tiles. Obviously, they wouldn't have to be heat tiles. They could just be lookalikes. But it just, it wasn't made to be taken apart. Not that way. It was made to be as strong and as light as possible so it could fly without breaking up.
I see that it's getting, there have been some TV reports about it as well. I don't know. It's really strange. This would be like an escalation, I guess, on Cruz and his ilk to try to get this space shuttle to Houston. And I thought that the big, beautiful bill, it didn't even say Space Shuttle Discovery, right? It said a flown crew-rated spacecraft. So they could have put anything in there, like a capsule or something like that too, for it. And I don't know. I was just at Space Center in Houston, and I saw the space shuttle on the carrier plane last week, and it's still pretty cool. But I don't see a space to put an actual space shuttle, for anything like that.
They need a new building.
Yeah,
and it's got to be a building because we've done the experiment of, hey, let's store these things outside with the Saturn V's in the past. And, these are flight rated. They're not weather rated over the long term. They're made to be as light and as delicate as possible, or as light and as structurally sound as possible, but with low mass. So they don't do well sitting outside. So you have to, especially the shuttle, because of all the tiles and stuff, which are, sensitive to moisture. So you have to have it inside. It's just, I'm sure those senators do many good things for Texas. This seems like a misplaced effort on their part, and it feels like grandstanding. Because I can't see any other good reason for it. Because
you get to wave the flag and say we want to do the fun thing, and everyone is saying no, you can't have the fun thing. And look, we were on your side.
For the kind of people that go to Space Center Houston, which are tourists mostly and kids, many busloads of kids from all over the county there. Does it really make a difference if the shuttle that they're looking at has been flown, or if it's that really nice one they have mounted on the flown carrier plane? One of
you can go inside that one too,
which you can go inside of, and you're not going to be able to do that with a real shuttle unless you start cutting holes in the side, which is even more disgraceful. So while I kind of get, the emotional core of this argument, beyond that, it just doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah. Well, the time to make that stink was in 2010, 2011 when the last shuttle flew, or in Discovery's case, what was that? Was it 2010, 2011? They all flew in 2011.
One of the two. Yeah. I mean, if it was coming for Johnson Space Center, I'd almost get it more because they were very deeply involved with the shuttle program. Obviously, These two senators were not. And maybe Corner was, Cruz wasn't. So, it's a head scratcher. Again, it just feels like an emotional argument to score points, and it feels very wrongheaded to me. But, they don't ask us, oddly.
We're going to probably argue about it for another 3 years, and then depending on what happens in an election, we'll see what happens with this push, I suppose. So...
I wanted to circle back to the government shutdown. There was a lot of noise made about what Trump was saying about if you let the government shut down, you people on the left side of the aisle, like it's entirely their decision, just wait and see what's going to happen with my other layoffs. I'm obviously paraphrasing here. I don't remember the exact wording. What do you suppose that means for NASA, if anything?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it really depends. Like, I think you were talking about earlier. There are a lot of contract scientists, a lot of contract workers at NASA. You know, a lot of the commercial folks, and those kind of contracts we've seen, at least in the last 2 days, a lot of contracts for different states for things that the government currently doesn't like clean energy and et cetera, in California and other, I guess they're saying democratic states.
Anything in California, essentially.
So it seems like there's like millions and billions of contracts that have been canceled. If there's something like that the administration doesn't like and sees like a potential pain point in this argument, that could be at risk. Now, we should say that there are things that were already at risk in the budget proposal. For example, there were, and we talked about this on the show with Casey Dreyer at the Planetary Society. There were like some 40 missions, right, that were at risk of being canceled. In fact,
more.
Yeah, more than that.
It was closer to 50.
Yeah, and in September of 2025, that was like the end date for the Juno mission at Jupiter, which is still doing okay, but they just wanted to cancel it to save the money, right? Even though the spacecraft is still able to do its fundamental science at Jupiter. We're actually looking into that. I don't think it's a spoiler because it has been discussed out there, and we talked about it on the show. But we don't know what the status of that is. And you know, if that contract, I think with the Southwest Research Institute to run that mission is canceled in this whole thing, that's the end, right? And that's not reversible, really, because you let a spacecraft go a few days, that could be irrecoverable if and when the shutdown ends, even if it's, you know, not even that long. The last really long one, what was that? 2019, 2017, 2019. It was like 34 days. I think. Yeah, 34 days long. So, you know, imagine what 34 days adrift would be for a spacecraft that no one can tend to, you know. Now, I do feel that a lot of that communication work probably could still fall under that essential services. But if it's one of these missions that has been earmarked for cancellation in the budget request, you can see that those types of things could be susceptible to just outright contract cancellations and whatnot. But this is spitballing here because you and I are talking about it. I don't know what the boots on the ground are, and we can't hear about it because we keep getting told, well, you got to wait for NASA to comment, and NASA's like, I can't comment because I'm on furlough.
Close,
you know?
Right. I do remember when we were talking to Alan Stern, actually, he was the one that said, once you shut these things off, you can't bring them back. Yeah. Which I kind of suspected for anything in space because of, attitude drift and so forth. I wonder if that's as true for Mars and lunar orbiters, and especially for anything on the Martian surface, where you can essentially park it, leave the dish aimed and call it a day for, I think, a few weeks without risk of but there's always risk of losing contact, of course.
Yeah. Well, anything that's in orbit has to be able to maintain that orbit, even if it's to adjust for little perturbations over time. And then the moon is a little bit more tricky because it has all those weird gravitational and magnetic anomalies that mess up stuff.
Mess cones.
And so, and even for rovers on Mars, again, because they're active missions, they could fall under that essential services, right? But it could.
Do you really think so? Because the impression I got was once we chop these, they're done.
Well, if once they're axed, right? But the ones that are still in there, like Perseverance, for example, probably even if they park it, it has to track its antenna to make sure that it's in contact and in good health and all of that telemetry. I would see that as pretty essential, to keep their Curiosity too. They're not canceled, those missions, so you want to keep them alive.
All right. Well, let's keep ourselves alive by going to a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, it's Leo Laporte. You know about Mac Break Weekly, right? You don't? Oh, if you're a Macintosh fan or you just want to keep up what's going on with Apple, this is the show for you. Every Tuesday, Andy Anako, Alex Lindsay, Jason Snell, and I get together and talk about the week's Apple news. It's an easy subscription. Just go to your favorite podcast client and search for Mac Break Weekly or visit our website, twit.tv/MBW. You don't want to miss a week of Mac Break Weekly.
Let's put this one under the heading of sample theft, ? So as we all know, Perseverance has been drilling samples right and left on Mars.
Drill, baby, drill.
I say that as if it's happening very quickly. It takes a long time, but they've filled over half their sample tubes. Some have been left behind in caches. Some are stored on board, but they're all on Mars, which is what we don't want. We want them to come home. And we've talked ad nauseum on this show about Mars sample return, the drama surrounding that, and that story is not, at least as of this point, any better than it's been before, which is probably canceled. There is some discussion of, private industry, maybe this or that, but as we've seen with the moon, it's harder than a lot of those guys thought it was. And so, you could put a lot of money into private industry and maybe or maybe not get the result you want. Regardless of that, the Chinese are not sitting around. They've got Tianwen-3, which is their next Mars lander, scheduled for 2031. And sounds like they might be looking at something like Jezero Crater. They say that they want to land between 17 and 30 degrees north of the equator. Jezero's at 18 degrees. So there's been some conjecture, might the Chinese send their sampling drone or rover, because they've got both, over to Perseverance, the Perseverance drill site, to grab a sample from there, because that's where we think we've seen fossilized remains of possible Martian life. So I don't think they'd go and grab the tube. That would be a little harder. But, there's dust and junk left from the drilling that they've done there. And then, of course, there's the samples they spotted. So at least they're identified. So if you want a guaranteed hit of something, at least with a high probability, you go to that site and grab it. Now, the one big problem is that, at least as it stands, as far as we know, Tianwen, the lander, would need about 9,800 feet deep area to land. And Jezero Crater's floor is at 8,350. So that would be a smackaroo. But, they're very good at picking up existing technology and evolving it and improving it. And it wouldn't shock me. I don't think they could change, at this point, Tianwen-3 to a Perseverance Curiosity sort of sky crane system. But they could change parachutes. They could add landing rockets, braking rockets. They could do a lot of things. So
why do you call it theft? Mars sample theft?
Because that's what the article that I cribbed it from implied, which was from space.com.
Well, our headline, just to make it clear, was, could China return the Perseverance rover's possible biosignature sample from Mars? If we called it, I don't think that we're saying they're going to steal it. However,
but who went there first?
What I wanted to bring up is, we had Jim Green on the show a while ago, and
will again soon.
Yeah, and one of the things I recall from that discussion was that when they were making the decision on these tubes and everything, was that they did want to make it agnostic for return in case NASA decided not to go like it's looking like they are.
But nobody believed it at that point, because how could that possibly happen, right?
Well,
we wouldn't turn our back on this.
It's like that whole thing about the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space Treaty and how no one can own the moon. Well, no one's going to test that until someone else gets there, right?
Right.
So it will be interesting to watch, because everyone is like, this sample is, the probably most valuable sample right now in the solar system.
Right.
And whoever gets there first gets it. And doesn't have to do the hard work of getting their own sample from the same area. That being said, there is nothing stopping. Let's say, for giggles, that NASA does get its ducks in a row, partners with Lockheed Martin or Rocket Lab or SpaceX to get these samples back.
Or SpaceX and Optimus, because Optimus could walk over and pick it up and stick him in his mouth and bring him back, right? How hard can it be?
Why would he need to stick it in its mouth? He has hands. Also, he's a robot. He doesn't have a mouth.
Because we're going to send him to pick up. John's holding his head. We're going to send him to pick up all the samples. You got to stick them somewhere.
Well, it could just
let's not continue that part of the conversation.
It could have an attachment on the body. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I don't think I want to give Rob the opportunity.
Belt loops.
There you go.
There you go. Or bandolier. Jammer B, incidentally, on Discord weighs in, old friend of the show and the network. China would be doing us a favor returning those samples. They become historical artifacts otherwise. There's some truth to that. I'd like to think that if they grabbed something there, they'd share it, perhaps in that moment of triumph, because Mars sample return is going to be yet another big geopolitical win for them, perhaps they would. But they don't have the track record NASA does of being that transparent and that open.
I'll tell you what I'm expecting for Tianwen-3, right? This is a lot. This is a lot of really great supposition. Oh, our samples are so precious, and we left them there, and there's some on the rover too, and how are we going to get them back? I think that we will see a little bit more of what we've seen with the Chang'e missions, for example, where it's very much like we're going to get there, we're going to get the stuff and bring it back to show that we can do it. So it will be a lander, it will have a scoop, and it will just grab whatever is nearby.
Right.
The follow-up mission stuff, that can come later, but no one has brought that sample back yet from Mars. And in order to do it first, you want to do it with what works, and they already have that from the lunar missions.
Chang'e,
they'll make from the Chang'e missions, and they'll adapt that for Mars, and then figure out how to do it there, because that's what they know works. And if there's anything that we can depend on from the China Space Agency, they take what works and takes the exact next step, and they don't usually make the big wild swings for anything. And we've seen that with all of their landings. Everything is building on the next thing and making it just a little bit more intricate. And what you're suggesting about, and this article obviously about asking the question.
Yeah. Hey, this wasn't my suggestion. This was me scraping off of your website. I think another way to pose what you're saying
is that by Leonard, by the way? I should. It was Andrew Jones. Yeah, Andrew Jones.
Oh, okay.
Andrew is a veteran of China space news for sure.
They do tend towards low-hanging fruit. So, for instance, with their crewed landing in 2030-ish, we expect them to land, get some contingency samples, get some nearby samples, and then get out of there pretty quick. Now, that mission has been baselined at lunar time of 6 hours. However, it's not clear whether that's 6 hours of EVA or 6 hours on the surface. But in any case, it's basically Apollo 11, and they're going to land at a fairly safe place because that's what you do when you're starting off. So you're right. They're going to, I think, take the easy way. I just thought it was an interesting possibility, and I love pushing the envelope, and that's why I called it theft.
We'll see.
Yeah. Sour grapes for me.
No, I have to ask the question. So
yes.
No, I just wanted to ask the question just so that we had the discussion about it all. So it'll be very interesting to see that. Again, you can't test any of the who owns what on these planets and moons until there's a second party there. And it will be when that day comes, it's going to be the story of the year, my friends. So you just wait and see. So
I did think it was interesting that they have a lander, a rover, and a drone. And I have you seen any indications of, is this an octocopter or does it look like?
I think they'll take what works. They know that the ingenuity worked, and they'll just build that because NASA's been pretty public about it. Hey, can we skip one and go? There's one thing I forgot to put on here that I think that we really should discuss, and we didn't talk about it last week.
What, are you going to keep us all in mystery?
Yeah, can we skip down to line 48? Because I think Rod's going to get a kick out of this.
We can do whatever you want after we take this next break. Stand by.
Woo! The tension, it mounts.
Hey, everybody, it's Leo Laporte. Are you trying to keep up with the world of Microsoft? It's moving fast, but we have two of the best experts in the world, Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. They join me every Wednesday to talk about the latest from Microsoft on Windows Weekly. It's not a lot more than just Windows. I hope you'll listen to the show every Wednesday. Easy enough. Just subscribe in your favorite podcast client to Windows Weekly or visit our website at twit.tv/WW. Microsoft's moving fast, but there's a way to stay ahead. That's Windows Weekly, every Wednesday on Twit.
So, Rod.
Yes, Tarek?
Guess what happened Friday afternoon? After we had recorded our last episode.
It's always, why is it always on Fridays?
At like 6 o'clock Eastern time.
Oh, my God. Yes?
I'm going to quote this now. This is straight from NASA. NASA selects Blue Origin to deliver Viper rover to the moon's South Pole.
Oh, that. Yeah. I heard that one.
You had it there? Did I miss it?
No. But I had seen it and forgot to put it in here. But
Viper.
But this is welcome news
again.
This is welcome news. We have bemoaned the unjust fate of Viper on this show many times. What kind of got me scratching my head is, where the hell did this come from? Viper was dead. It was going to be disassembled. Bits were going to be given away to different companies that might or might not do something with them. And suddenly, out of the blue, unless I missed something, but you never miss anything, nah, we were just kidding. We'll fly it with Blue Origin. So is it going on the Blue Moon Mark 1?
Well, no, that's a whole different thing. This is actually a separate contract. And I have to give all due credit to our spaceflight editor, Mike Wall, because he is the one at like 6:30 p.m. on an Eastern...
A space reporter.
Yeah, he's like, this just happened. And I think he was with his son at a baseball game, and he's like, I'll get to it as soon as I get back from this baseball game. Yeah. So to recount for our dear listeners, a couple of years ago, actually, was it last year? It was last year, right? Yeah. Last year, or no, 2 years? Anyway, like in the last administration, NASA canceled the Viper mission. The volatile, I'm going to get it wrong. I got to pull it up just to make sure I get it right.
It's a prospecting rover that's supposed to go look for volatiles near the south.
To drill for water. The volatiles investigating polar exploration rover, and it was to drill. Yeah, it was going to drill into the moon's south pole, look for ice, look for water, the kinds of things that astronauts would need to make air, to make rocket fuel, all of that good stuff. Test in situ resource exploration and collection. The TLDR is that the rover, the rover was just about done. It was built. They were doing shakeout tests, and all they were waiting for was the astrobotic lander, basically the delivery system to get it there. And NASA canceled the mission because they weren't confident that Astrobotic's lander, the Griffin lander, would be ready to deliver it to the moon. Now, in NASA's defense, they were right. So it wasn't ready for the windows that they were going to do. But that's usually not a reason that you cancel like a multi-million-dollar rover that is built, tested, that works,
multi-million is putting it very politely.
Yeah. So there's a big to do about this. What to do about it? Well, maybe NASA could sell it to a commercial company, and then they could use it for it, or maybe they would sell off the pieces to different people that would fly them on a different rover.
And pardon me for breaking it, but that was just like a gut punch because not knocking the commercial industry doing what they can, but their success rate has been low so far on average. And the things they're trying to do are a whole lot simpler than landing a big, heavy rover like that in relative terms. So yeah. Now, over the last year or so, there were not a lot of takers for the rover mission, right? There weren't any, were there?
There weren't any, no. They put out calls for who wants to use it, and it's like, no. Because what we see from these companies is that they're building highly sophisticated machines and delivery systems, which means they want to build their own bespoke machines to use those highly sophisticated machines and delivery systems.
Well, and NASA, as I recall, wasn't offering any money. They were just offering the tech. Saying, hey, don't you want to do this? It's like, well, why should I fly your mission for free? That's not how it's supposed to work.
Now they've decided to award a $190 million contract to Blue Origin to deliver this mission and pluck it from the grave and get it to the moon in 2027, in late 2027. And I'm going to emphasize the word late there because pretty sure that Viper was supposed to already be on the moon by now, right? Yeah. Again, depending on the status of Astrobotic's delivery system. So we'll have to see. But this is the second robot lander that Blue Origin will be delivering to the moon. They're already launching, like you mentioned, their Blue Moon Mark 1 robotic lander, and that's supposed to launch on a New Glenn rocket later this year. And it's supposed to also carry some NASA cameras on it, the stereo cameras for lunar plume surface studies, and a laser retroflective array as part of that CLIPS, that commercial lunar payload services, which this Viper thing is. But to me, like, to be a Viper scientist or an engineer that built it,
bruised and battered as they may be.
It's like I've come to terms. Maybe I haven't gotten over it, but I've accepted the fact that this thing that I have built, this precious cargo, isn't going to fulfill its purpose. And then you're like, you throw it back into the front row,
just dangling this in front of you.
Maybe I'm not even. Like, do I get to be on that mission now? Right? Because I've been reassigned.
Well, not this week because you've been furloughed.
I tell you, right? So, anyway, I wanted to have that discussion because it makes zero sense to me.
The whole thing is a head scratcher. I will say, this is one time that I'm grateful for Blue Origin being the slow plodding behemoth that they have been. They're 2 years older than SpaceX. They obviously take longer to do things, but they're following the old NASA methodology of make it perfect before you go. Does it cost more? Yes. Is it slower? Yes. Do we see some factory constipation with all these supplies going in the front door and not much coming out the back? Yes. But so far what they've done has worked pretty damn well. And we can't say the same for Starship yet.
If Blue Origin's Mark 1 Blue Moon Mark 1 lander succeeds,
it's game over.
There's going to be some discussions about scale up for crewed moon landings. I guarantee you.
Those discussions are already taking place. I don't think they've led any contracts yet, but it's basically, as I understand it, effectively a technology pathfinder for the uprated crew version, and the modifications wouldn't be that extensive.
100%. Remember, they were not happy when the Starship landing lander was picked for Artemis 3 landing system. They were not happy at all. I mean, neither was Draper and Northrop Grumman and those teams either, right? But I think that after Blue Origin lost Pad 39A, for example, and a bunch of the other contracts, this was like they were really, really gunning for this, and then they didn't get it, and so then of course not only that, but they and the Draper and the other teams did manage to get the what is it, the request for proposal, but it reopened for Artemis 4 and beyond, to have some more flexibility. At least in U.S. landing systems on the moon, and we're still waiting to see how that evolves over time. So,
well, and as a non-engineer, I always have to put that disclaimer in there. The Blue Origin
because
lander,
of differential equations, yes, we all know.
And so many other things. Just the fact to have a brain like a poodle, but Blue Origin's lander just looks safer. It's low to the ground. It's got a widely stanced landing pads, landing legs, and you can see how it's going to work when you look at the SpaceX lunar lander. And they still, to my knowledge, have not put out an engineering grade drawing of what the landing gear is going to be like. But whatever it is, you've got this thing. It's great that it's big because you're basically landing the International Space Station on the moon in terms of pressurized volume, which could be great because there's your lunar habitat. Knock it on its side, put some dirt on it, boom, you got Skylab on the moon, which would be fantastic. But you want it to be put on its side purposefully, right? Not to just go kablam.
Knock it on its side,
like the intuitive machines did. So you'd have to have a crane and lower it down, and it would be a big involved deal. Let's run to our next break and come back to naughty Venus. Venus, you naughty, naughty child, you're hiding killer asteroids from us. And I say killer asteroids with quotes. So while any risk is estimated to be 1,000 years or more away, of course, that's an estimate. That doesn't mean that's the way it will turn out. There are a bunch of asteroids orbiting near Venus that could be a threat to Earth. And with current technology, it's very hard to detect them because they're close to the sun. It's hard to see things close to the sun, as any kid has learned when they went outside and stared at the sun.
As you have learned.
Which we don't recommend. Well, I did it with a telescope with a filter. I had an excuse. Those were the rockin' 60s. Kids, they're replaceable. Eyeballs, they're replaceable. So until we get something better, probably a space telescope that's better. I don't know if a coronagraph helps or what. This is kind of a mystery area. There's 20 currently known potentially dangerous near-Earth objects that are observed because you could see them around dusk and dawn as soon as the sun's occluded. These are considered to be county killers, up to 1,000 feet wide. So they would give you a crater of a few miles and a blast radius of 30 to 50 miles, which is bad enough.
Yeah.
They're not going to take out the whole country or anything, but if they fall in the ocean near a coastline, you get big tsunamis and things are bad. And just a reminder, this is 5 to 10 times the extent of the Tunguska event back in, I think it was 1908 in Siberia, which flattened 800 square miles of trees and may have killed some people. We don't know.
That was an airburst, right? Wasn't
Yeah, but it's still a big butt rock coming down and doing nasty things to the planet.
Or was it an asteroid, right?
Well, yeah. So what's your take on this story? I mean, we know they're there. We don't know how many, but we know there's some.
Yeah.
And, this is another planetary defense issue. This is asking governments, either collectively or individually, to pool money to do something about a clear and present danger that we know is there. It's just you're rolling the dice on the odds to keep kicking it down the road.
I think what it does, and you mentioned the 20 potential ones that they know about. They call them Venus co-orbitals. So
yes.
It's a very specific subgenre or subpopulation of near-Earth asteroids that are in this Venus kind of orbit-y thing, where if they get bumped out, then they can come and smack us. But what it really, to me, speaks for is for missions like the Near-Earth Asteroid Surveyor, the Near-Earth Object Surveyor, the NEO Surveyor mission. I think there's a couple of other proposals as well to put a space telescope up specifically to look in the areas that we can't see with our visible and other instruments, like in that sun, either like in an orbit on the other side of the sun, looking out, so that we have a sentinel that's looking for these things, or mapping them, or otherwise, or to track things over time, and so like this study, as well as the pre-existing ones, really puts another brick in the wall that says we need to have this, because as we saw, not just with Tunguska, like you mentioned, but with oh my gosh,
Chicxulub.
Well, Chelyabinsk, with Chelyabinsk.
Chelyabinsk
in 2014. That was just a small SUV size one, and that
it was 60 feet, wasn't it?
I thought it was 30 feet. They like the core rock one. Anyway, you are right. Yeah, it wasn't this size of the
no, not even close.
But it caused a whole lot of damage, a lot of injuries with like glass and stuff, because it was of where it exploded. And if you could imagine, if it was one of these sizes, it would have obliterated that entire city. Let alone the other towns around it within that kind of county area there. I don't know what they call counties in Russia. But
blasts or something, oblasts.
I don't know. Yeah,
I did think it was interesting. We got so much video from that particular event, mostly from cameras mounted on cars, which I later read is a much more common thing than here, because they, I guess, have no de facto insurance. So they want to know who to blame if they get, if the car gets jammed up while they're parked or something. So apparently everybody has a camera running all the time, which is one of the reasons we got so much good footage of that thing, and they were able to triangulate it to some extent.
So I think that this is just another reason that we need to be looking for this stuff, because if we're not looking for it, if we can't see it, then if we by the time we detect it, it might be too late to do something about it. And we know that we can do something about it from the DART mission, however small. But
we know that there's one way of doing it. There's still a lot of tests to be done for asteroid defense, but wasn't there, it's not on the rundown, but wasn't there, I think I read on space.com, a couple of weeks ago, like the closest pass ever of an object that just kind of came out of the blue or the black.
Oh yeah, the surprise asteroid flap. It was yesterday. It happened yesterday. 300 miles, I think it came by. So
no, it was more than that, but it was still really, really close. Yeah,
we'll have to see. I think I can even pull that up right now. We were because that story just went.
So it was like within satellite orbit range, which
250 miles away.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Jesus, that's the orbit of the space station almost.
Yeah, that's right. 2025 TF.
And we didn't know. And how big was it?
It was, let's see, it was, it broke a record. It's not the closest shape. There was one in 2020 that flew within 230 miles back then, and they found it just about in it. But the 250 miles, not far by any means. It's the size of a couch, about 1.2 to 2.7 meters. So that kind of thing, it might burn up. It might burn up, but that's a real bad day for people on the space station if it hits the space station. You know? It
is. You say couch. I saw somebody the other day put up a thing for 3i Atlas, how many Avi lobes big it was. It was like 60 Avi lobes long or something. And I thought, oh, it had to be more than that.
He has a new Medium paper out about that being, I don't know, like bringing, like, seeding life or something like that. I forget what it was about. But it was assuming it was a craft of some sort.
Yeah.
Again.
Of course it is. Which one do you want to do next?
Oh, can we go down to line 48?
Please do.
All right. This is just a really quick one because since we're talking about Interstellar Comet 3i Atlas. See the segue? Did you see the segue there?
That was smooth.
I know, right? Today is its closest approach to Mars. October 3rd. So as it's coming through, and there are spacecraft that are watching it. The European Space Agency's Mars Express, as well as JUICE probe at Jupiter, are watching as this interstellar comet passes through our solar system. And because they're further out there, they've got a better view. And it's still, it's not coming close to Mars, but this is the closest it's going to be there. And we have our spacecraft Sentinels there already keeping an eye on it. So it's going to be tracked by these spacecraft. And NASA was planning to do it. It's not clear to me between the shutdown and like the other issues that are going on, if those observations were loaded in time in order for NASA to get them, because I know they wanted to use some of the Mars spacecraft, and I thought they wanted to use Juno, but I can't recall now. But the comet's going to be 30 million kilometers from Mars today as we're recording it. It might have already passed that closest approach. And these European ones, Mars Express, the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, we're going to be scanning it. And I know that the JUICE, they wanted to use JUICE to do it. And NASA had hoped to use Psyche. That's the one I was thinking of. The Psyche asteroid, which is on the way. They were going to try to use that too.
Juno, I think they were talking, Avi anyway, was talking about, hey, let's just redirect the Juno spacecraft to rendezvous with it.
That's right.
Which I guess is theoretically possible, but not likely.
Yeah. And NASA has the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, Tianwen, right? China's orbiter, and HOPE are all there too. HOPE is the UAE orbiter that is still there, and so they have all of these different spacecraft that can be watching this thing for their respective nations as they fly by. So today is Mars Day for Interstellar Comet 3i Atlas, and let's hope that they get some good stuff. I would expect any early images, we might be able to get them by maybe Monday, hopefully, maybe even before that. But so we're keeping an eye out for that, because it should be really fun to see what it looks like.
Well, good to know that we'll both be working on Sunday. Let's go to line 48, SpaceX's Chinese connection. A SpaceX insider revealed that that there had been Chinese investors in the company. It's not clear whether these are wealthy individuals or government proxies, but probably the latter.
ProPublica, yeah.
Yeah. So how much, if any, influence do they have is a question. SpaceX, of course, fought the release of the information, which I think rightfully further increases concerns.
Yeah.
And they, interestingly, SpaceX had it set up so if you're coming from China, possibly some other countries, but China in particular, you had to buy through second parties like the Cayman Islands, which doesn't fill one with a lot of warm fuzzies about what their motivations might have been. I haven't seen an official, so far, as far as I know, they haven't had an official statement on why this is okay in their opinion.
I don't think that we're going to get one, at least on this matter, from SpaceX. If we do, it would be just as ProPublica was able to get this through the official documents from these hearings and these testimonies. Because this is a story that I think ProPublica first was reporting that they had found evidence of this during previous testimony, and now they have the unsealed testimony, which confirmed it all and means that it's officially disclosed. And the concern for folks here are like, why is it a big deal? SpaceX is a big company. They should be able to get investors from wherever they want. That's true, right? They're a private company. They can seek investment from wherever. Virgin Galactic has a lot of investors from like UAE, et cetera. But when it comes to like space technology and whatnot, there's a lot of other restrictions that companies have to abide by. Things like ITAR restrictions to protect the sensitive technology from other countries. And so the concern, as I understand it from this ProPublica piece and from the past coverage, is that you have these companies in China going through third parties to get a stake in a private company, which means that there isn't any public glimpse into who's investing in what.
Right.
Meanwhile, this company is also one of the biggest civilian space contractors for NASA, one of the biggest military space contractors for the U.S. military. And it's not just about rockets. It's about all of the services they provide, because they have their Starshield project, which is to do communications with their Starlink technology for the U.S. military. And then they're looking at other types of transportation for point to point for the U.S. Air Force and whatnot too. And then of course all of the NASA contracts too. So all of that is drawing some concern that if these investors are investing in it, what are they getting back aside from just the financial returns from it?
Right.
Is there some kind of technological transfer, even if it's like a surreptitious? Anyway, that's the concern. Secretive, that's the word. So, like SpaceX doesn't want them to do it, but they might be doing it anyway. We don't know. So, I think that's what we're waiting to see is what does make it okay in this regard when they aren't supposed to be having that kind of investment. So.
And speaking of China, and this is a story we've covered before, but I saw a little update on it. China's speeding up their lunar landing tests for their human landing system, which is planned for about 2030, although we know it's really going to be 2029. By the end of the year, they are expected to have finished and have already finished some of these. A pad abort test for the Mengzhu crew capsule, the takeoff and landing test for the Lanyue lunar lander, which was done tethered, and 2 static fires in Long March 10. Analysts expect to see a low-altitude flight of the Long March 10, possibly before the end of the year. A max Q flight abort test for Mengzhou, which means you got to launch it and get it up to the point where the speed is putting it under maximum stress, and then do your abort test. And also tests apparently of the Long March 12, which is a reusable rocket. I'm not sure if that's the one that looks an awful lot like Starship or not, but a couple of them do. And all this follows, tellingly, roughly the development of the Apollo program back in the 60s. Of how we made sure all those things worked before they were flown, which a lot of that was von Braun's philosophy on testing, although they accelerated that quite a bit ultimately. And 5 semi-private operators are also scheduling tests of launch systems, some reusable. And when I say semi-private, I mean if you're a private company in space or potentially militarily leverageable things in China, you have a percentage of state ownership and control.
Yeah. Did you get all this from the Ars article?
Yeah.
That Eric put out yesterday? Yeah. I added that link there, John,
Thank you.
if it's needed. But Eric said a good piece. Eric's piece was about how China pulled ahead because they were taking this iterative look based on what they knew worked to build the technology to get back to the moon, or I guess for them to get to the moon. In the first
excuse
place.
me. Actually, this is from Space News. This wasn't from Eric.
Oh, this is from Space News. Oh,
yeah.
I didn't see that one because I don't have a subscription. Did you get one? Did you get one in Space News? Oh,
yes, I did.
You can share your password with me offline later. So actually, no, it's a new fiscal year. Maybe I can get my own, right? So now that it is,
it's not very expensive.
Yeah. Space. That whole Space News crew is in Sydney, Australia this week, as is Andrew Jones for Space.com, as well as some of his other clients.
We should be.
I know.
But I
right?
chose to go to Huntsville instead, which was
for the
great
International Astronautical Congress that's out there right now, and that's where I think a lot of this stuff came from. Is that they got updates on the moon program from that Space News that was Jeff Faust most likely, or it could have been Andrew Jones writing, because he is like he also writes for them too for that. And it will be very interesting to see how all of these tests evolve, because if there's one thing we know is that China wants everything to work. They're not going to lose a mission, so they want to make sure that they get all these tests in hand. And the key question that we're all asking is there time enough for them to do that and achieve that? I think you were saying 2029, right? Even though they're looking at 2030 to reach that target before NASA.
After all the belly aching I've done about that, you think I said 2029?
Yeah, I know.
October 2029 is the 80th anniversary of the People's Republic. They're going to do whatever it takes.
I was trying to just be a little understated, but okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, but it's me we're talking about here, so yeah.
So,
what? Go ahead.
I guess we're kind of at the end, right? Where I think we still have like so many more.
Oh, we got like 5 more. So why don't you pick one, and then we'll call it a day.
All right. Well, I think
no pressure, but pick the right one.
Pick the right one. Well, there was this there's a good story for us. This first rogue exoplanet weather report. That's a fun one. That's a sciencey one too.
That was, yeah, because we just talked about rogue planets a while back.
I will point out too that from that IAC meeting, both Space News as well as ours, I believe, and Space.com, we all have stories about how the European Space Agency is embracing reusable technology finally at last, and they unveiled like a miniature version of Starship as part of that. So
I saw
it's not just China that is seeing what Elon and SpaceX are doing and trying to emulate it through this new program at the European Space Agency and in Europe, as well as through past ones, because they have a Callisto rocket too that looks very similar with like the feet that SpaceX has. They're trying to catch up now, but it's going very slow for them. But
well, and I think given the challenges SpaceX, which is funded almost to infinity, have had with Starship, it's interesting that people are. I could see why 2 years ago, you'd say, "Oh, this is the future. Let's steal that technology and that design." I wonder if some are now saying, maybe there's an easier way.
I think it's just there's a lot more red tape, because it's not just one nation that is trying to build the whole thing. ESA is a collection of I think it's like 17, 18, maybe more than that now, countries that all have to agree in order to pursue this stuff. And so it takes a long time. But yes, this was this is from the James Webb Space Telescope, the first weather report from a nearby world with no sun. So it's a rogue world out there in deep space
called SIMP 0136
in the void. Yeah, that's right. About 200 million years old, 20 light years away. And it's actually technically classified as a brown dwarf. And what they found through these James Webb Space Telescope observations is that it is a stormy world, and it is covered in auroras. So it has a lot of storms, like a gas giant would, with these belts and stuff, and they can see some of the heat differentials, because James Webb is an infrared space telescope. But they also saw signals of auroral activity at the poles, and this was in the September 26th edition of the Journal of Astronomy and Astrophysics, to observe how a brown dwarf atmosphere changes as it spins over time, where you can see the differences in temperature and the chemistry and the clouds and that type of thing. And they're saying that it's like a new capability, a new window or glimpse into understanding the weather of planets beyond our solar system, that they're able to do this with James Webb, which is the most powerful space telescope in space right now. We got to be honest about that. And they think that it's really important that they were able to prove this capability out and see these changes in the atmosphere over time directly with James Webb, because now they'll be able to understand the weather of other exoplanets in the future as they try to say, is it habitable for life? Is it something that could be an Earth analog? Is it too big and it's more Jupiter-ish? And that sort of thing. So
this is an Earth analog, but they did make the point that, part of what's so valuable about this is it's a planet that's not next to a blazing bright star. So you can just stare at it. You don't have to sneak a look when it's off to the side using a coronagraph or whatever. You can just stare at it as long as you want. What puzzled me is they said that the clouds in the upper atmosphere were shown to contain a lot of silica sand structures.
Yeah.
Where do you get sand on a gas giant?
I guess it's from the actual planet itself, right? So, and this is it's a brown dwarf. We should be clear. So it's not like the size of Jupiter or anything like that. But
yeah, and a brown dwarf wouldn't have a rocky core. That's what I'm getting
well,
at.
they think that there could be a core of diamond inside of Jupiter, and Saturn way back when. There were
Let's go
theories
get
about
it.
all that. I know, right?
We'll show De Beers where to put their
But
diamonds.
There's more like so it could rain silica and sand on this planet, on this brown dwarf thing. They also found a layer of air that's 570 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than they could have ever thought, suggesting that warmth is caused by the auroras, which is crazy to me. Also, I don't understand how the auroras are there in the first place if there's no sun to stream particles there, right? That's the part that I want to know.
But could that happen if by its own magnetic field being particularly strong?
It has a much stronger magnetic field that supercharges any charged particles that are hitting the atmosphere, right? So, it's space. We talk about the void of space. It's not really empty. There's all sorts of stuff out there, and these particles that this world is encountering out there in the vast void and blackness of space. It's still running into that stuff. It's why scientists came up with those Bussard ramjet concepts, right? That would just collect hydrogen from interstellar space and then use that to fuel your spacecraft. That's why they have that, is because that stuff is out there, and some of that is charged in terms of particles, and then they will be funneled into this extremely strong magnetic field, which then supercharges their speed as it funnels them to the poles. They interact with the atmosphere, causing the glow, and then bing, bang, boom, you've got auroras. And so,
bing, bing, boom.
I know, right? It's just it's a weird world. Simp 0136.
What's even weirder, A, is that it's named Simp, and B, that Jammer B hasn't weighed in yet on why a rogue gas giant would have sand. But until then, I want to say thanks for joining us today for episode 180 that we call NASA is closed for business. And I say that with a little tear coming out of the corner of my eye, because as I've said many times, I'm a child of the space age, and we didn't see this kind of stuff then. Tarek, as always, where can we keep up with your adventures of the imagination as augmented by video games portraying you as an unlikely but epic hero?
Well, you can find me at Tarek J. Malik on X, as well as Blue Sky, at space.com. As always, hopefully next week you will find me writing about NASA that has been reopened because the government is open. But this weekend, speaking of NASA, I will be headed down to Washington, D.C. I'm going to test for my black belt in Taekwondo. Everyone wish me luck, because I've been training for a long time, and I'm really nervous about it. So hopefully it'll go well.
Well, and what could be smarter than going down to take your black belt test when you can barely breathe? But more power to you. You can, of course, find me at pilebooks.com or at astromagazine.com. Something I've never said before while John Ashley is showing us his karate moves. Where can we see what you're up to, John?
Hang out here at twit.tv.
Well, that's not exactly a website, but okay. And remember, you can always drop us a line at twis@twit.tv. That's TWIS at twit.tv. We welcome your comments, suggestions, ideas, and jokes. Don't fall down on the job. We're counting on you. New episodes of this podcast published every Friday on your favorite podcatcher. So make sure to subscribe, tell your friends, and give us reviews. We'll take whatever currency of reviews they have, whether it's thumbs, stars, tongues, whatever. And you can head to our website at twit.tv/twists. You can, of course, also follow the Twit Tech Podcast Network. That's hard to say, by the way. Let's give myself a little pat on the back. The Twit Tech Podcast Network at Twit on Twitter and on Facebook at twit.tv on Instagram. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been fun as always. And thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next week.